Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. If you'd like business, relationship, or entertainment coaching, please go to our main channel at Golden Opportunities Coaching or check me out on Twitter at PO Perception. This particular episode, though, Ted DiBiase shares his basic viewpoint of his return to the wrestling action after being laid out several months before, several weeks before. Basically saying that he now believes he can come back to active competition, which would be good for the fans and good for him. Also interesting in this moment is, or in this particular episode, is the fact, and get this, Jake Roberts against Rick Steiner. Not a match that I ever think I've seen, but a match that is available here. Kind of an interesting journey there. Obviously, we are moving towards Jake leaving the promotion probably within about the next 2 or 3 months, but putting people over on the way out the door and doing all of that very, very effectively. Obviously, Mid-South only around for another, by this point, probably just under 2 years, although changing names to the UWF not too terribly far away here. The Roberts and Steiner match, certainly much more, I don't even know that I want to say traditional. Um, Certainly Steiner relatively new. I did not know, I thought he came in like 87, 88, but he actually came in here in the end of 85, which is interesting to me, and that being, he of course being Rick Steiner. Scott would come in a couple of years later, and they would obviously be one of, if not the tag team of the 90s for more traditional wrestling fans. Obviously not your, WWF guys until 93 or so, but interesting in that there is a good bit of challenges there. DiBiase, though, being on his way back, going to fight Flair. Obviously the match, and obviously wanting revenge on Dick Murdoch, his mentor, as well. Imagine being in DiBiase's maneuver and having your mentor, such as Dick Murdoch, turn on you here. Jake Roberts kind of stalking along. Rick Steiner just here to get some experience, not anything too crazy to write home about. Steiner hits a couple of shots and tries to tie up with Roberts. Odd to see Steiner just in some tights and boots. Used to seeing him in the more traditionalized singlet, but that obviously doesn't come along here. Hangs on to the arm. Roberts not happy with any of that going on. Hammerlock, back elbow by Rick Steiner, otherwise known as the man that would later become the dog-faced gremlin, Rick Steiner. And, kind of moving that forward a little bit. A couple of shots, and Jake Roberts is certainly a guy who is trying to gain advantages. Rick Steiner having power and utilizing it here. Roberts cowering in his lack of, or his discomfort of nature, and things are what they are as far as that's concerned. But anyway, hard shots by Roberts, and ultimately, takes him over with the side headlock takeover. Back to basic wrestling, as guys and ladies today often don't know how to do. Go back to the basics when things are going in a more, I guess you'd say, traditionalized. Although I don't even know that it would be traditional at this point. Nearly, it'll be 40 years ago in a couple of years here. Anyway, Roberts snaps him over with that headlock. Doesn't get all he wants on it, but gets enough. And ultimately that goes according to plan. Roberts also now kind of getting the hair pulled out a little bit, and manages to do everything he possibly can to keep things going in his direction. However, Steiner, protected very well, actually does a deadlift to Jake Roberts out of the corner with a bear hug, which is a really bizarre thing to see or to think about in that particular vein. Anyway, Roberts, who gets driven back into the corner. Hard shot by Roberts. Roberts gets a shot right under the chin. Steiner line although weak clothesline by Rick Steiner at this point compared to what we would know from later on. Actually, Roberts gets tied up in the corner or in the ropes, and Roberts finally gets his way free, slides over the back, turns Steiner around, hits the DDT, plants him, and 1, 2, 3. Jake Roberts is your winner. Gilbert discusses his portrait giveaway, which is still not going exactly the way he wants it to go. Then we see Gilbert and the Nightmare. Again, Nightmare managed by Sir Oliver Humperdinck, managing to keep things under wraps there as far as that tandem is going. And Humperdinck trying to pump things up, Nightmare. And I believe Gilbert is your television champion at this point. Or, no, they are the tag team champions at this point. Somewhere along the way, it appears that the unfriendly nature of wrestling has gotten the better of Sir Oliver Humperdinck. The reason I say that is even he is wearing a bandage at this point over his forehead. Not that is that uncommon for heels to do, but Gilbert ties up his man and manages to do the best he can. Hard shots by Gilbert. Gilbert with a kick to the kind of midsection, whatever, back elbow by Gilbert. Gilbert obviously relying on the much larger Nightmare to gain advantages where he can. The match itself, pretty basic. Nightmare, Doll, and Ring-O is not a big deal. Obviously, a back suplex by Gilbert is going to change things over into the Nightmare coming back in, and he lays into his adversary here, drives the knee into the spine, and sends him back into the buckle. Bear hug by the Nightmare, and away we go into the land of the uncomfortable or unknown, depending on your perception. Anyway, kick by Eddie Gilbert into the midsection. Gilbert misses a elbow drop on Steve Dahl. Dahl finally gets his tag off to Ring-O, and Ring-O comes in, tries to be a house of fire, more like a house of sparkler, as he doesn't really get as much as what he wants there. Gilbert picks his man up, then tags off to the Nightmare. Nightmare obviously having the size and weight advantage over his opponent, and a win for the team of Gilbert and the Nightmare here. Then we go to Dick Slater. He's up next in singles action. Slater against Perry Jackson. Jackson relatively new, not a guy that everybody's writing home about. Dick Slater, of course, with the bounty with Buzz Sawyer in the previous several weeks, so they're pushing him pretty good. Perry Jackson, not a guy that necessarily gets a lot of airtime, but he gets enough. Anyway, they battle over the headlocks, real basic stuff. Slater comes in and gets a couple of kicks right to the side of the head, and slows the match down as best he can. And that's something that Slater is certainly known for doing. Cranks on the head a bit, gets everything he possibly can out of every move. Jackson comes back, sends his opponent into the buckle quite a few times, and doesn't seem to be all that worried about what's going on. Slater manages to kick into the midsection, and a stomp over, and real basic stuff there. Hard shots by Slater. Slater happy with what's going on, but not all the way. Irish whip and a desire for actually drop kick almost right under the chin, but Slater manages to get a pile driver, banned in some territories, but not in this one. Pile driver gives him the victory. Then we go to Lord Humongous, another one of the charges of Sir Oliver Humperdinck. Humongous, obviously a masked fellow. He's facing Sean O'Reilly. Humongous kind of stomps around out there, big guy. And Humperdinck happy with that investment, obviously, as one would expect. Humperdinck takes the mask or the hood away and leaves the mask on, takes the fabric covering away from Humongous. Humongous not impressed with his opponent, doing some posturing, posing, and whatever. Hard shots, big headbutt to the midsection there, and ultimately we see several shots there. Big uh, reverse choke, almost like the $1 Million Dream by Humongous. He gets a victory out of, I wouldn't say nowhere, but doesn't get what he wants out of a classic match by any stretch. Al Perez, one half of the former tag team champions, he is here. And Perez, who seems to have fallen from where he was at the beginning of his Mid-South run, has the tag team championship run, doesn't really do a great deal for him, hooks up on the headlock and kind of gets tossed by an enhancement talent around a little bit power-wise. Hooks up on the arm, doesn't get everything he wants on that. And with 13 minutes and 3 matches to go, you're not going to get, a great, 2 matches to go on top of this one. You're not going to get a great match here. Perez snaps him over, gets the front face lock up under the chin, doesn't get all he wants, but actually there's a miscue because it looks like Perez wanted to go for a drop kick, and the enhancement talent went for a back elbow, and Perez quickly started selling the back elbow in quick succession there. Flying forearm almost like a Tito Santana by Perez. That doesn't look good either, so maybe Perez needs to not be in squash matches or something. Walks off the rope and gets a victory. Perez wins, but not very convincingly. Speaking of convincing on the other side of the spectrum, as in very convincing, Dr. Death Steve Williams against Mark Hawk. Not going to be a fun run there for Mr. Hawk, as obviously Williams been around for a while now and knows how to use these enhancement matches to his advantage, uses his power pretty quickly, uses it pretty early and pretty often, shoulder tackles, among other things, and ultimately kind of the takedown, and kind of rolls through, rolls over, and kind of does a gator roll with the front face lock for Williams. Williams now, manages to do what he can there, and a back suplex. Ultimately, the backdrop suplex followed into the cross faces and just ride time. Williams trying to choke his man out, trying to get his man out, trying to do anything he can. They roll into the buckles, or into the ropes rather. Not a pretty match by any stretch of the imagination, and the main event or final match on the show won't be either here. As we kind of keep going around about there. Williams manages to do everything he can, gets the man up in the Oklahoma Stampede and gets a victory. Bruise Brothers versus Malcolm and Malcolm and Star. Not exactly what one would write home about either if you're looking for long-term matches. They've got about 7-8 minutes left there. Not going to get a heck of a lot. Bruise Brothers, of course, are African-American tag team that I've mentioned before. They come out in suits and top hats, the whole deal. How they're going to get 5 or 6 minutes out of that, I don't really know, but there are distractions as the Bruise Brothers come to the ring. They are kind of doing the dancing thing, and they cut a short promo. Basically, they want a challenge for the titles. They want to do whatever they can to cause as much chaos as possible. Back elbow by one of the Bruise Brothers, and again, they end up taking a victory in quick order, including a big splash. 1, 2, 3, your win for the Bruise Brothers. We'll be back with the month of December, at least what's here of it, and a couple of Power Pro Wrestling programs right after this.